Welcome to Ingrid's Insights, the channel where I tease out meaning in TV, movies, YouTube videos, and other media. Today I'm reviewing Gone, Episode 2 in The Ones Who Live. Whether you're a returning viewer or a new viewer, please like, share, subscribe if you haven't already. Watch until the end and comment. If you're not sure what to comment, just drop a fire and a helicopter emoji. You'll see why soon. The episode begins with a walker tethered in gas cans and inflamed. He's wearing a shirt that says, "Gas man, let me help you." Then we flash to 6 years after the blow-up of the bridge in Alexandria. Michonne is sitting facing a leader of another group. Michonne shares that she came across Bailey and Aiden, who are members of this group, and they needed her help, so she helped them. The leader of this group is really perplexed at why she would do that, because this particular group just leaves people behind if they're in trouble or they get separated from the group. This goes against Michonne and her group's values of looking out for each other and looking out for other people. So Michonne continues to tell her about where she thinks Rick is. He is probably in New Jersey, based on the information that she has at some terminal. And she asks the group leader for a horse because she's going to be needing it to go north. The leader tells her, and the other people in the group, Aiden and Bailey, tell her that it's very dangerous to head north at this time of year, that she should stay there for a few months and maybe think about going later on. And Michonne's like, absolutely not. I'm going to need to go now. I'm looking for Rick. And then in enters Nat. Nat is a feisty, brave little person that shares Michonne's moral stance on saving people and demands that the leader gives Michonne whatever she needs because she went out of her way to save Bailey and Aiden. So he's saying give her whatever she needs to continue on her journey, even though it's a death mission. So this journey I see it as a hero's journey in a metaphorical sense, that if we think of the stories that we read, like King Arthur's quest or the Odyssey or the Iliad, we have to go through these trials to make us who we are. So I see this journey as Michonne's hero journey. And on that journey, usually you meet people, you're going to have a lot of trials, but you will also meet people that will help you. And I believe Nate and some of the people from this group are there to assist her on her journey. So she spends the night, and Nate and the other group give her some armor, and they give her some weapons. We learn a little bit about Nate being somewhat of a pyrotechnic genius, and that comes out a little bit later. He tells her that her walkie-talkie is not going to be working soon, so he gives her a journal, and she tries to encourage them to leave this group because it's going to be dangerous for them there because they don't look out for each other. So Michonne goes off on her hero's journey against insurmountable odds. It's Michonne against legions and legions of walkers. She takes a look out to see what she's up against. This is the scene that we saw at the end of The Walking Dead. It was a sneak peek. Now we know that Michonne is making her way to find Rick. This entire mission either shows the level of love and commitment that Michonne has for Rick, or it shows her own hubris, or maybe both. As there would be no way that she would be able to get through that throng of walkers, even with Nate's military-grade weapons. And then what do we see? We see the gas man emerging from the throng. The gas man explodes, knocking Michonne off of her horse, or should I say off of her high horse. Metaphorically, the gas man to me was sent there by Providence to let Michonne know what her limitations are, to help her realize that no one can really do this alone. As she rises up, she sees two purple explosions emitting light on either side of her far off into the distance that draws the walkers away, creating this parting of the Red Seas almost. That's the way that I took it, down the middle of the walker herd. So this parting of the seas reminded me of the Bible chapter in Exodus. And in fact, the group is making an exodus. This group has decided that they're going to go with Michonne on her mission. They're tired of being with a group of people that don't care about the individual and will leave them behind. So they all come together as a group, exiting, and decides that they're going to go to Alexandria. But before they do that, Nat discusses how important it is to know when to go.
I had enough a long time ago, but I stuck. Kept on thinking just a little longer, next spring. Maybe when I made the right weapon, had the right plan, and years went by. It was time to go a long time ago. I knew it.
So this notion of knowing when to go, it's going to keep coming up again. It's going to come up here shortly. Michonne derives that Aiden is pregnant and tells her to go to Alexandria, but Aiden wants to be with Michonne when she finds Rick. So essentially, Michonne's mission has become the group's mission. And it's interesting because they've swung from one ideal to the next, leaving people behind. Now they've swung all the way to the other end of wanting to be with Michonne while she goes on this mission to find Rick, someone they don't even know. You need to know when to go, right? In the next few scenes, we glimpse into Nate's past where he was bullied and how he used fire and blowing things up as a release. We learn of his stepdad, Danger, who taught him how to build, and we see his deep connections to Bailey and Aiden, who both love Nate. Abruptly overhead, we see a military helicopter, and immediately Michonne knows it's a threat and yells, "Scatter!" The group is doused in yellow chlorine gas that immediately kills some, turning them into walkers, while leaving Michonne, Nate, Bailey, and Aiden severely injured with burned respiratory systems. Once they find safety, Aiden begs Michonne to go back to her children in Alexandria. She cautions that this mission to find Rick isn't worth the risk. Michonne knows Aiden won't survive and cautions Bailey to tie her down. Nate tells Michonne that there's a medical plaza where there may be oxygen. Once Michonne gets back, both Bailey and Aiden have turned, and Nate has created a ring of fire around himself to protect him from Bailey. I know many in the fandom are disappointed that we lost these characters so soon, but all characters play a role, and once that role is finished in the Walking Dead universe, time's up. They have to go. Especially in this limited series that's Paramount premise is the love story between Rick and Michonne. Everyone else is a means to that end. I do think that Bailey and Aiden were also examples of people who didn't know when to go. Aiden should have left to Alexandria when Michonne told her to. Aiden even tells Michonne, "Go home to your babies, it's not worth it." Seeming to understand that, she too should have left when she had the opportunity. It wasn't until writing for this video that I made a connection between Bailey and Aiden and Rick and Michonne. Both are interracial couples with kids. Well, Bailey and Aiden were pregnant, but they died. I'm not saying that Bailey and Aiden deserved to die, but they did die by not making the right decision at the right time. The decision to go. And now they're gone. So equally as important as knowing when to go is knowing when to stay. So Michonne and Nate are staying inside of the mall area. It looks like a furniture shop, and they're healing their respiratory systems. And I caught these clips of the window because it shows you the passage of time. So it's from the fall to the winter, and then we'll get another glimpse of them healing in the store. So they were there about a year. We see the progression of Michonne building her body back up, because she's a very physical person. So she's starting with her push-ups on her knees, which you've never seen her do. We have another clip here of Nate talking about when it's time to go.
I told you. I knew when to go. And I didn't. And they all died. You gotta know when to go. You gotta know when to go. You gotta know when to give up.
So this is the second seed that has been planted with Michonne about knowing when it's time to go, but also now Nate adding on to it, knowing when to give up. And she has a response to that.
He didn't give up, right? Didn't give up on you. Gotta think it was because of your mom. You gotta think it was because of love.
So this idea of love, again, I've mentioned it before, this is primarily a love story between Rick and Michonne. And so she's bringing that back to say, look, your stepdad didn't give up on you, so I'm not going to give up on Rick. Again, we see the passage of time. We see her preparing herself mentally and physically to go after and find Rick once again. So they basically they've healed, they're getting ready to go. She's telling him, go back to Alexandria, I'll tell you what you need to say. And he's like, look, I've lost everything and you're all I got. And so it's interesting because they were talking about love not too long ago. And I do think that they have, not a romantic love, of course, but they have a familial love, like they are family. And so they're getting ready to head out to go to this Bridgers terminal where they think that Rick might be. I just love this shot. That's why I included it in this video. So you see them walking and making their way to this terminal. And of course, Michonne comes up with the really clever idea of using the walker to pull their supplies. And once they get there, she's hoping to see some evidence of Rick being there. And unfortunately, once she gets there, what she ends up seeing is just a wasteland. Where they are, there's a cruise ship that has been burnt down to, well, not somewhat burnt down to the ground, and all of the people that are in the area have all been burned to the point where they're unrecognizable. So again, if we go back to that hero's journey type of situation, she's gotten to the point now in her journey where she should in fact just give up. That we really don't see any hope. It seems like if Rick was in this area, that most likely he's ended up in one of these piles. She's going around taking his boots and trying to see if any of the people that have died are his size. And she and Nate again are talking about, he said, you can just go on to Alexandria and still believe that he's alive without completely giving up hope, but you need to get back to your children.
still feel him.
Your phone, you know what it says? The Japanese? Believe a little bit longer.
You've been telling me to go home.
You should. But you can still believe he's out there.
It's been right in front of me, hasn't it? All this time. It's been right in front of me. It's been so long. If he were alive, he would have found his way.
So finally, we know what it says in Japanese on the phone. Believe a little bit longer. And I think that Nate is saying that you can believe without risking your life or risking the life of your loved ones or your children's by you not being there to protect them. You know what it feels like to me? That she's hit rock bottom and there's nowhere else, and she just has to accept that she's not going to be able to find Rick right now. And that leads us into the present day, and she's on her way back to Alexandria. She's accepted that she's can no longer fight, and in some ways she's been defeated and she has given up. I mean, I don't see it so much in a weak way, but she's just let some of that hubris go of that she can find him. And then, of course, on their way, they spy a helicopter, the same military helicopter that they came across, and drop the chlorine gas on them, and subsequently killing Aiden and Bailey. Nate says, I'm not running from them. We're going to fight back. And this is when we find out that he shot this missile, and that's the missile that ended Okafor. So Nate, and his pyrotechnic genius, is able to bring down these military helicopters. And again, this just seems like when I was talking about the hero's journey, that Michonne has come across these people that are helping her on her journey, and she doesn't really know how until, like, you know, it's not really a planned out sequence of events. These things are just kind of happening. So they bring down the helicopter, and they're prepared for Michonne to go and do hand-to-hand combat. And as she's fighting them, she's thinking of all the things that she's lost. Poor Aiden, who's pregnant. And how Aiden is turned into a walker. She's everything that she has built up and everything that she's lost, she's unleashing on these CRM military soldiers. And Nate is in the background just supporting her the best he can, and he's just blowing up things. And then again we have this the symbol of fire and destruction, and at this point it's coming in handy. So we see Michonne is visualizing Bailey, who was lost, and she's saying, "Look me in my eyes," as she's going through and ending those CRM soldiers. And then, of course, the very loved RJ. And then she comes across Rick. And again, this is just happenstance. He just falls into her lap after she's decided that she can no longer look for him. She still had belief that he was out there. She could feel it in his bones, but she no longer could push herself to go look for him. And you know what's interesting is that this reminds me of that law of attraction kind of idea, that you may know what you want, you can feel what you want, But how you're going to get it, you don't know. You can prepare yourself to get it, but all this forcing and pushing, and that's essentially what she was doing when she went out to look for him. And I don't want to take their agency away and make it a magic thing, but we have to understand in the world, in the universe of this story, that this is in fact amazing. But how many times have you? I've heard people say a number of times, when I stopped looking for love, there it was. Or I'll do it just with little things with my keys. I'll say, where are my keys? And then 3 minutes later, or even less than that, I'll find them. And I wasn't really looking, actively, but I just put that out in the universe. So she never gave up hope, and she had the belief that she was going to find them with the help of her entourage, and then unfortunately their demise, but then her newfound friend Nate. And so at this point, Rick is telling her he knows that he has very little time to convey that she has to throw away her or hide her alpha mentality, her warrior mentality. She's going to have to say that she came from a small community, and he's telling her not to mention Alexandria, not to mention that they know each other, and that she's going to have to come off as a more of a beta type person, although she doesn't know about A's and B's at this time. They're just, and she can see in his eyes that he's fearful, and this is something that she hasn't really seen with Rick before, probably not since Negan, that era. And then finally she introduces him to Nate, and then Nate's like, what? Oh my God, this is him? And she's saying, well, he's not with them. And then he's gonna go into asking, but why? And then of course one of the soldiers shoots Nate, which is really unfortunate. But then he does say his final line, which is, see, you can just keep believing, but you need to know when it's time to go. And then he goes, and he expires with a smile on his face. And again, it's unfortunate. I know that some people in the fandom were saying that, why he was such a great character, why did he have to go so soon? But really his purpose was to help Michonne find Rick, even when he wasn't helping Michonne directly find Rick. And so in the world of the story, he's fulfilled his purpose. And so then Rick is saying, okay, so this is what he tells her the plan. This is what we're gonna have to do. We're gonna give your katana to Nate, and said that was his weapon, and anything that you have that can identify you, you need to give it to me. And it's interesting, she's going along with it, but she doesn't understand why they have to do it. Why can't they just leave? She doesn't understand that the CRM will track you down, hunt you down, and destroy you. And not only that, she doesn't know. Well, we haven't gotten to that part yet, but I was going to bring up Jadis, but Jadis is a present threat, but I don't think that Rick is thinking about her right now at the moment. So he's putting his gun on her as if he's caught, she's some sort of prisoner, and you could see on her face she's changed her whole affect. She is no longer Michonne, but she is Dana. So here we have Michonne facing a group of people, not unlike she was facing that one leader of the other group in the beginning of the episode. But maybe you can sense something in her eyes that it's a little bit different. And she does something really great here when she's talking to them. She calls herself Dana Bethune, and she mixes some lies with truth. So she uses a lot of the terminology that she's had with Nate. Like she says, you gotta know when it's time to go. And she tells them that she uses a bow staff as her weapon of choice, and that she was from this smaller community of about 40. So they believed her. Then they welcome her into the consignee program, I think right outside of the city. And then she and Rick meet up, and then he explains to her once again. But before they do that, they're loving on each other. And what's interesting is like the fandom, the Rishoners, and I don't know, I'm just a fan of the Walking Dead universe, and I love Michonne, and I love their love story. But the Rishoners has just talked about how much they love each other, and how much they've been all over each other, and I am happy to see it as well. I want to also focus on other aspects of the story. What I do think this loving on each other is just normal stuff that you do in a relationship when you're in love. This is a love story, but then it's also a story of what it takes to keep that love, nurture that love, and also navigate this world of perpetual danger. And so he's trying to explain to her why they have to do this in a particular way, but of course he can't really convey how dangerous that the CRM is and how far their reach is. She does get to see that he's lost his hand, and said it was in one of those times he tried to escape. So then they're off and they leave, and she's gonna go back. And then we get cut to a scene where someone is looking at Michonne's entry tape. So we're not sure who's looking at the entry tape, but whoever they are, they're opening a door, which we soon to find out is Rick's apartment. Michonne takes it upon herself to go and do some recon. And then we're back in Rick's apartment, so the scene is switching back and forth between Michonne doing some recon, and then this person inside Rick's apartment getting cozy and having a drink. And then she finally gets up to this tanker top, and then she can see all of the CRM. And I think at this moment she's really plotting her revenge. She has Nate's lighter, and it says danger on there, and then it's either danger for her or danger for the CRM, or both. So Rick walks into his apartment, and who does he see? It's Jadis. And I think everyone was pretty much imagining it was Jadis, or it was going to be the consignee Pearl Thorne, but it's Jadis who's in his apartment. And so she ends this pretty much like, if you and Michonne try to escape, I will end Alexandria and you and Michonne. She lets him know that she had never really was that concerned about him leaving, but she knows that him and Michonne together is a force to be reckoned with. And says, what in the F are you doing? And that is the episode gone. So thank you once again if you've gotten to this point in the video. Thank you for watching it all the way through. Thank you for your patience with my somewhat erratic narration style. I started this off with just reading from my notes. Actually, I wrote somewhat of a script, and then at some point midway through I got tired of that because I don't want it to come off like I'm reading a script. So anyway, I know that as I do more of these videos, they will improve. Thank you for your time. Please like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you on TikTok. Bye.